What's going on, everyone? It's Gendo here, and you're watching the Higher Tempo Press YouTube channel, where today we're going to take a look at how Zinedine Zidane's tactics work in real life and see how we can recreate them within Football Manager. Plaudits given to Zinedine Zidane focus on his personal skills, his ego management, if you will, and that's not just the players we're talking about. This club in particular has many personalities within its organization chart. However, it is very rarely said that Zidane is a tactical genius, but hey, he has just won 4 out of the last 5 competitions, including their first La Liga title since the 2011-2012 season. Since Mourinho's side has won the championship, Real have seen that task defeat even top quality managers, including Mourinho's final season with the club in 2012-2013, followed by Carlo Ancelotti and half a season with Rafa Benitez. Zidane has also pocketed the Champions League twice, and back-to-back at that. I don't know if anyone has noticed before, but that is the first time that has ever happened. AC Milan did something similar in 88-89 and 89-90, but that was when it was called the European Cup. This time, we're talking about the Champions League. So is there more to Zidane's Real Madrid side than just telling Ronaldo to go sit out a game? Well, here we take a look at how his team is set up, how you can recreate it in FM17, and most importantly, whether it's any good. The basic shape Zidane uses is a 4-4-2 narrow diamond with a typical player lineup as shown. One of the biggest talking points of the season has been the emergence of Isco as a starter at the tip of the diamond. Injury to Gareth Bale made the decision easier for Zidane, but choosing the young Spaniard ahead of Bale in the Champions League final was reward for Isco's performances, and maybe a sign of things to come for next season. The Real defensive line is set slightly deeper, as the team prefers to defend in a low block. As a team, they do not press the ball, but they prefer to drop back into 2 defensive banks, 1 line of 4 defenders, and 1 line of 3 midfielders. If the ball is out wide, the wingbacks will engage, but only in the team's defensive third to try and block the crosses. Support comes from the near side midfielder as the team shifts over towards the ball. If the ball is passed into the central attacking mid-strata, the ball is then quickly pressed, almost always by Casemiro, as Real look to protect their golden zone. The 3 attacking players do close down the ball sometimes, but not very aggressively, nor do they actively track back to cover the passing lanes. The aim is to let the opposition make a mistake, with players looking to pounce on even the slightest error to win the ball back. This strategy relies on their players having both high concentration and determination. You know that kid at 5-a-sides or even Sunday League football that's just levels above everyone else? He's brilliant attacking and impossible to get past? Well, that's Real Madrid. We're talking about world-class footballers here. Real have a real fondness to pass the ball in a U-shape from wingback to wingback via their center backs, as their teammates look for space and the team moves up the pitch. Passes are made to feet, garnering even more direct passes, and take advantage of the higher technical skills of the players. The wingbacks move very high up the pitch, offering passing triangles between the center mid and the attacking mid, especially down the left where Marcelo links up with Toni Kroos and Isco. The near side center forward will make runs wide into the channels behind the fullbacks, while his forward partner moves across looking to exploit any stretched space. This movement opens up more passing triangles between the center forwards, the wingbacks, and the attacking mids, giving Real lots of options. It also creates the option to switch to the opposite flank. It is worth noting that the 2 center forwards will swap places with each other very often throughout the game to confuse defenders and disrupt marking instructions. The aim of this play is to overload the half spaces between the fullback and center back of the opposition's side, usually to Real's left. As the defense is pulled over to cover threats down the one side, we see runs forward from the attacking mid and far side center mid into the gaps through the center and opposing half spaces. If attack is coming down the right wing, Marcelo at left wing back also makes the runs to the back post. In this image, note that the center forwards both attack the left half space, creating space for the right wing back. The ball follows a typical U pattern before Carvajal, who is in space, has time to pick out Ronaldo with a cross. Ronaldo runs from his deep position to be able to head it home. When Madrid break down attacks and launch a counterattack of their own, these are done with great speed. The first lines in the counter are usually broken by a dribble, often from Modric, Isco, Ronaldo, Bale, or Marcelo. These players have dribbling skills, determination, and pace to get clear of the initial pressure. The team will break forward in support with 5 players joining the attack, 2 center forwards, a center attacking mid, a center mid, and a left wing back. If they break down the right-hand side, the right wing back will also attack. Whoever breaks first carries the ball through the center before looking to feed the ball into a teammate, with runs from center forwards into channels to occupy the defenders. Modric and Isco are both very comfortable carrying the ball at pace. The 3 key players we're going to highlight here are Toni Kroos, Isco, and Casemiro. In Toni Kroos, he is a deep-lying playmaker who can dictate play from wherever he can get space. In the recent Champions League final, it was not uncommon to see the German dropping into the left-back position to start attacks. Isco offers a different form of pivot in the attacking mid position, more subtle and creative than the directness and physicality that Gareth Bale brings. And in Casemiro, he is the main man for protecting the center backs and winning the ball back, which is very essential when you have both wing backs pushing high up. Let's take a look at the team tactics and instructions. The control mentality was really made for Real Madrid. It's conservative attacking football for a team that is too big to sit back and defend. The flair comes from the individuals. As for the shape, this is something of an in-game call, but it's somewhere between structured and fluid. We'd like to start with fluid to get the center mids properly set up beside the defensive mid when defending. We would also want to go with a slightly deeper defensive line for low block defending and for drawing out stubborn defensive opposition. We also want to set it up to play out of defense because it's really how Real build up attacks. And for the width, we want to play fairly wide to utilize the wingbacks to their full potential. So now let's go over the various player instructions and roles for each position on the pitch, starting with the goalkeeper. Keylor Navas is a good, solid, standard goalkeeper, and really, if you're going to set any player instructions at all, we recommend to roll the ball out to the defense. Otherwise, he's perfect just on default. Our recommendations for desired attributes on this position are, the goalkeeper ones. We're not really fussed about this position whatsoever because Keylor Navas is a top quality goalkeeper, but if you can go out and get David De Gea, all the better. Sergio Ramos sees himself as a ball-playing defender, but we want Toni Kroos to dictate play, so both are set to shorter passing with fewer riskier passes. We also set them both to defense duty as we want them to hold their line, using Casemiro as their shield in the center, forcing opposition wider. How do you solve a problem like Marcelo? Well, the short answer is you don't. Yes, he'll get caught out of position, and yes, you will lose goals from that side. You also fly by the seat of your pants just watching him play. But his attacking contributions and the excitement and confusion that he can create makes this position a key one. We recommend giving him the player instruction of closing down much less. Now, Marcelo isn't the weak spot on this team. It's here in this shape, with this player and Dani Carvajal. The goals that Real tend to concede typically involve this man losing concentration or positioning or both at the same time. The player instructions we want to give are fewer risky passes, shooting less often, and closing down less as well. He still needs to get up the pitch and be a threat, but he needs to do it with curbed enthusiasm. It is interesting watching the ball being played into a number 10 or a striker who's dropped deep into the hole against Real this season. As soon as the pass is a twinkle in its daddy's eye, Casemiro is on it like a midge to a Scotsman. If he doesn't intercept the pass, then he is so aggressive in his press and tackling, the usual outcome is either a successful tackle or a mistake, and Madrid have possession again. At first glance, the anchor role seemed a good fit, but this was too timid in its closing down. So the role is set to defensive mid on defense, with closing down set to much more because it seems to match real life better. This central mid role was a tough one to recreate in Football Manager, although it is a role that seemed to scream out deep line playmaker. I used deep line playmaker and support in this mid strata, but Toni Kroos wasn't dropping back enough to dictate play. Regista, according to Football Manager's description, seems to match how Kroos is in the team, but he needs to drop back to defensive mid to the left of Casemiro, which meant his positioning was not quite right. The deep line playmaker on defense has the movement, and with a few tweaks with the player instructions, like giving him more riskier passes, I believe he plays more like the real thing. The option to switch to support duty is there if you need to commit more players to the attack. We toyed with the idea of also making Modric a playmaker of some strain, but after watching his play, we felt this could be recreated with player instructions added to the base center mid support. like dribble more for starting those counterattacks, getting further forward and moving into channels because he's one of the attacking pack after all, giving him more riskier passes to look to set up the center forwards with longer through balls. And also more direct passing could be set depending on the opposition to get those long Modric pinpoint accurate diagonals going. FM gives you a few options for this role, but advanced playmaker on attack is really the best fit for matching Zidane's team. It makes Isco a pivot man in the attacking third, but it's far from a static role. The attack duty also gives the player license to dribble at the defense and drive into the box, as Isco does with great effect. We also give him the player instructions roam from position, as it seems to fit him very well. In our other saves on Football Manager, we have dreamed about one day having a player that is described as a poacher, a target man, and a deep-lying forward all rolled into one. We call it the ultimate striker, but really they've gone for the more tamely named complete forward. Now, the movement of Benzema and Ronaldo are best replicated with these two roles. They'll run into the channels, both wide half spaces and through center. They can hold up the ball, make chances for teammates, or carve chances for themselves. They act like poachers in the box if the wingbacks are wide, often finding space via quick movements. The split between support and attack duties keeps giving the opposition defense decisions to make. The center forwards are set up to swap position with each other throughout the game to aid in this confusion, and both are asked to close down more to try and nick the ball high up the pitch, setting up counterattacks. To recreate the low block that Real use, you can set closing down always onto the most attacking strata of players, including the wide positions as well as the AMC slot. It is Casemiro's role to aggressively press anyone in this central zone. It's hardly surprising, given his own talent in this area, that set pieces seem a valued tool for Zidane. In the 16-17 season, his team scored 22 goals from set pieces, 21% of his total, and only conceded 5, 12%. Attacking corners resemble a melee in real life, as a 5-strong horde of Madrileños loiter with intent just inside the center of the penalty box before springing forward all at once towards Cruz's delivery. Then they split off, 1 to the front post, 2 to the center, and 2 to the far post. Outside the box, 3 players wait for any loose balls or short clearances, ready to get another bite of the cherry. FM doesn't really allow you to recreate that bunched pack, so to compromise, we have stuck the 5 in the box using up all available instructions. You're also restricted with setting up one of your players outside the box, so Isco was given the attack balls from deep instruction. For defending corners, Zidane has chosen not to put anyone on the post, but does bring in every outfield player back into the defensive third. The team are blessed with attackers who are tall with good aerial ability, so the shorter players, like Isco and Modric, are usually furthest from their goal, ready to launch counterattacks. And what type of results will this corner tactic garner? Well, let's take a look at the first game of the season, a 4-1 home win over Espanyol. Now personally, I don't like these heat maps. I really prefer to see my team dominate that central golden zone of the opponent's box even more. But Real don't faff around outside the box though. They are incisive and ruthless in their attacks, preferring to work chances starting out wide to open up teams. They also showed that they shepherd the opposition down the flanks a lot more. Now taking a look at the passing map, you could see some triangles available, especially around the advanced playmaker, but I'd prefer to see Marcelo higher up the pitch, with Casemiro deeper and more passes to the center backs. Taking a look at the season results, and oh dear. The season's expectations were to win the league and to reach the finals of the Champions League, but as you can see, that just did not happen. I suspect because of my absence, the assistant manager David Batoni decided to play the first 11 into the ground and not utilize the depth of the squad into rotation. Because I mean, look at the rotation here. Even if you don't start Gareth Bale, you can have him on the bench. Nacho is there, Alvaro Morata, James Rodriguez, Pepe, Fabio Contral, Kovacic, Asensio, Danilo. The list goes on with the amount of depth that this team has, that you can almost plug and play players into this formation and you can find some success. Take for example the Champions League. We got knocked out by Roma in the first knockout phase. After a decent 1-1 draw away from home in the first leg, at halftime in the Bernabeu with a scoreline 0-0, the assistant manager withdrew Marcelo and Casemiro. Cue a 3-0 defeat. Très bon, monsieur. Following the inevitable drop in league position while away winning the Club World Cup, Madrid clawed their way back to the top of La Liga in March after a 4-3 victory against Atletico Madrid. A good time to hit form, but a slump of 3 defeats in 7 saw Valencia come away with the championship. But it is slightly heartening that at the end of the season we were undefeated against Barcelona and Atletico Madrid in the league. The standout result of the season was most definitely a 3-0 victory away at the Camp Nou versus Barcelona. El Clasico to finish out the season. Yes, it wasn't enough for Real Madrid to win the title, but it was enough to prevent Barcelona from winning it themselves. And let's take a look at some other stats comparisons between virtual Real Madrid and real-life Real Madrid. In this season, real-life Real Madrid averaged 17.4 shots per game, 40% shots on target, 55% possession, and an 87% pass completion rate. Now in this simulation with this formation over 60 games, Real Madrid had 19.2 shots per game, 45 shots on target, and hell, by himself, Toni Kroos completed a whopping 90% of the passes that he made, averaging 74 passes per game. So what's the final verdict on this? Well, it is a fun tactic to play with, but not one I want to be looking for in a long-term career save on Football Manager. It doesn't control the game well enough for me, and I found that it is defensively unstable. If you're looking for a pre-FM18 game, this is definitely a save to treat yourself with. Zidane has built a tactic around the strengths of his players, which is the correct way to manage in any industry. But is this Zidane's preferred formation, or does he hanker for another, a more alluring style? For all the transfer rumors, I can't see where Eden Hazard would fit into this team, for example. Therefore, while enjoying my quest to determine if the Frenchman is a tactical genius, which has failed, Zidane as a manager, as he was a player, will remain an enigma. So I do hope you found that video interesting, and there will be a download link to the tactic in the description below so you can try it out yourselves and see if you can have any success using Zidane's tactic. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Higher Tempo Press YouTube channel. I've been Gendo, you've been awesome. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and peace out.